What is going on, Sports Wars? We're here. We're live for some Monday evening quarterback. Now, Robert is not with us yet. I'm not sure whether he's going to be. I know he's a very busy man, so we'll see. He has the link. He may or may not be here. No promises as of right now. But I am joined, as always, on these Monday night streams by Fear the Beardo. What's up, man?
Nothing much, man. Good Sunday full of games yesterday. The Giants won 7-2, so that's very exciting. But a ton of instant classics yesterday. I'm excited to talk about it.
Yeah, we had one incredible game. I mean, Bills, Vikings, with everything leading up to the end of that game, all the chances the Vikings had that they didn't convert on, then all of a sudden they get an opportunity. Josh Allen throws a couple of very untimely picks. There's a lot to talk about in terms of that game. One of the best ones we've seen. And once again, maybe the game of the year, Josh Allen loses in overtime. It's kind of what we saw last year in the playoffs for him as well. So, but with the hopes that maybe we might be joined by somebody else soon, why don't we focus on what you just talked about first, the Giants game, because that's a game that probably not everybody cares about, but you do. And then we'll talk about Lions and Bears, which I might care about, but not a lot of other people do.
Yeah, I mean, just going into it, the Giants, I believe we were like 5-point favorites or something like that going in, which is kind of rare this season, having been favorites. But against the Houston Texans with one win and a tie this season, it was honestly closer than I expected. Just the way the Giants were playing, they were completely outplaying the Texans, but the score did not reflect that. The Giants defense did let the Texans into this game a little bit more than they deserved, and especially in the second half, the Giants have been really good with second half adjustments with our new defensive coordinator Wink Martindale. But the Texans, Dameon Pierce was actually he wasn't chewing away at our defense like Saquon was against Houston's defense. But Dameon Pierce had a few very long, impressive runs that put the Texans into good position, which allowed them to score and keep the game close. But nonetheless, the Giants, again, pulling one out. All of our wins this season have been – the difference was one score. So – 7-2 sounds a lot better than 6-3, and we are now second place in the NFC East because the Packers once again come out on top against the Cowboys, one that I did call yesterday on our Sunday morning stream. So anyways, but very excited about the Giants being 7-2.
Yeah, they have not. It feels like they shouldn't be 7-2. It feels like they haven't maybe played some of the teams at those times. They did beat the Packers in London, a couple others, but how good are the Packers? They just barely beat the Cowboys after losing 5 straight games. So, I don't know how the Giants are going to continue this pace. But it certainly seems as of now, like they only got to win a couple more games throughout the rest of the season. They basically are going to lock up a playoff spot of some way, somehow. Yeah. So, I mean, they're in good position, better than I think most people thought they would be this year. And a Texans team that kind of the inverse of what we've seen from the Giants, a Texans team that has been in nearly every single game. But they're 1-7-1 because I think they have that one tie against the Colts in that first in the first game. So, so a weird team in the Texans for sure. They might end up getting the number 1 overall draft pick while staying in every single game. So they might end up getting a really impactful player next year with a team that's just almost good enough to compete. So that might be a really good way for the Texans to end the season if it does happen.
Yeah, between the Texans and the Raiders, those are the 2 worst teams in the league right now.
Yeah, and I want to talk all about the Raiders and how they let that game go and how Matt Ryan got a surprise start.
Very
out of
shocking.
Nowhere. Yeah. I think that I think even the line would have been a little bit different if people knew that Matt Ryan was playing, because I think most people think that Sam Ehlinger is not as good as Matt Ryan, to be just perfectly fucking honest with you. It's almost like the Colts were just looking for a different little spark or something like that. And then when Jeff Saturday came in, he's like, well, no, I mean, this guy should probably be fucking playing. He's clearly better.
Yes, Sam Ehlinger starting just a few weeks ago, and the whole benching of Matt Ryan was clearly a last-ditch effort on Frank Reich's part for simple job security. Just to show Jim Irsay, hey, you know what, we're trying something here. It's not like Matt Ryan is our only hope. Frank Reich just kind of showing his worth a little bit, saying, let's go in a different direction just to save his job. But it was bizarre because when Jeff Saturday first initially got this job, he did say that Sam Ehlinger was going to be the starter. But that also could have been because Matt Ryan was suffering, maybe some lingering injuries. Wasn't sure if that the timetable on when he was going to be back. But Matt Ryan showing that he was healthy enough to start yesterday, got that last minute start for the Colts.
Well, and I think the real story of this game, and maybe if things were a little bit different, if Jonathan Taylor had been healthy all season, Frank Reich probably still has a job. That team's just a different animal when you have JT in there in the backfield. Like he is so good. He's a top 5 running back, not a question about it in the league. And he broke off some big runs that they were definitely missing when he's out. So, and you have to imagine the offensive line play is something that I don't know if Jeff Saturday can do anything by being there for a couple days. I don't know if he can tell these guys anything that they don't know already as professional football players, but they certainly seem to be blocking a little bit better than we've seen in recent years or in recent days. Jonathan Taylor with 22 carries for 147 yards, including a big 66-yard run. So provided a big boost. And Matt Ryan, instead of throwing the ball 50 times like he did in a couple games and a couple losses earlier this year, 21 for 28, much more manageable. That's what they need to be doing on this team. They need to be about a 50-50 split. And I think that's their key to success. And it was successful for them. Did you see Derek Carr crying in the post game?
I did. And man, here's the thing. Derek Carr, you either hate him or you love him, and it is rough to see any player kind of go through that. He clearly cares about this team. He wants to be a Raider for life. He said that he wants to be a Raider for life. Yeah, he looked like a little bitch crying, but man, some of the stuff he says, like, you feel it. Like, you feel his frustration, and he doesn't want to throw his new coaching regime underneath the bus because obviously Josh McDaniels, he's been very successful with New England Patriots, not so much successful with the Denver Broncos when he was their head coach there for a little bit.
Or the Colts for like 4 hours.
But yeah, it's rough. This video is a little rough.
Yeah. Maybe we found the reason why Bill Belichick didn't hire an offensive coordinator this year. He knew that eventually Josh McDaniels would get fired and probably come back. Maybe that's what he was betting on. But
no, I love Josh. I love the car. I love our coaches. They've had nothing but success, way more success than I've ever had, and, I'm sorry.
Derek,
sorry.
Continue.
To finish that, I'm sorry for being emotional. I'm just pissed off about some of the things,
Pretty sure he grow up in California.
He went to Fresno State, yeah.
Okay. So did he grow up in Texas or did he grow up in California?
Well, wait. I think he grew up in California. Yeah, he's in California. He was raised in California.
That's what I thought too, which is why this accent always gets me.
I'm just pissed off about some of the things,
He sounds like he's from Texas, though. Maybe a big old dip in his mouth like that, like one of them old boys. That's kind of what Derek Carr always sounds like to me.
Yeah. Let's try and do just to practice what we put our bodies through just to sleep at night. And for that to be the result of all that effort pisses me off. Pisses a lot of guys off. It's hard knowing what some guys are doing. Like I said, just to practice what they're putting in their body just to sleep at night. Like just so we can be there for each other.
It's going side to side a lot.
In that room felt the same way about this place. And as a leader, that pisses me off. If I'm being honest.
I like Derek Carr.
Yeah.
I do. I find him to be pretty genuine, and I do think he cares. And I think this Raiders team is better than their 2-7 record. They may be finally feeling some of the effects of improperly firing John Gruden last year, giving into the woke cancel culture mob like they absolutely should not have. And then you saw that this offense really did flourish a little bit last year. Now, obviously, the loss of Waller, it hurts them, but you did add Devontae Adams, and it just, everything seems hard for this offense for some reason. It seems like they're constantly put in 3rd and 8 positions, like they're just constantly trying to convert and try to extend drives. And this Raiders team, it has been a disaster for them so far.
Yeah, they have a little bit of an identity crisis. They don't know who they are. They don't know if they're run first, if they're going to develop Josh Jacobs in the backfield, if they're going to develop that run game and then, pass off of the run, or are they a pass-heavy team? Are they going to, go out and maybe get another guy to line up on the other side of Devontae Adams and then just go pass-heavy with Derek Carr, Devontae Adams, and then that next wide receiver, that weapon that they're missing, and that could be them suffering from missing Darren Waller, who has been suffered injuries the past few seasons. But yeah, they have a lack of an identity right now, and just some bad luck with some shitty draft picks, with Henry Ruggs, obviously, with that traumatic car accident he was in just a few years ago, and he's gone, and they just released Jonathan Abrams, who was their first round draft pick corner just a few years ago as well. They just have really bad luck with their drafting. So yeah, it's tough to see a guy like Derek Carr, who is obviously a clear devoted leader who cares about football, cares about this game, and cares about this team, and then having this record of 2-7, he's probably worried about his job security as well, to be honest. Yeah, it's tough time for Raiders and Raiders fans right now.
Yes. And I see people talking about, he could have been from Eastern. No, he's from fucking Bakersfield, California. However, I will give him, this is why I asked, because obviously his older brother played for the Texans. He moved there. He moved to Texas when he was 11 years old.
Correct.
So, and then he moved back for 1 year high school, then came back to Texas for college, then went to Fresno State. So went back and forth. But from the age of 11 on, he was in Texas. So I think we can have him have a Texas accent, because that's what that is. That is a Texas fucking accent. It's not an Eastern California accent, guys. I also lived in California.
Certain emphasis on certain words definitely sounded a little bit Southern.
He's an old Texas boy. Eric K with 10 gift subs. Thank you very much, Eric K. I appreciate it. 10 Sports Wars memberships. And Lulu Blue is a channel member. She says, RIP Kentucky football, back to being a doormat. Yes, I will say that Kentucky lost to Vandy, I believe. If you lose to Vanderbilt, you know that it's really getting bad. That it's really getting bad for you in the SEC if you lose to Vandy. And they were, I think, a lot of expectations on Kentucky football going into this year. So, all right. But let's talk about my Chicago Bears.
Yeah.
Justin Fields. A lot of people. Justin Fields is the guy. He wakes up being the guy. Justin Fields certainly is fun to watch. There's no doubt about that. Unfortunately, Justin Fields, if you put him in a have-to-pass situation, cannot do it. He just can't do it. You saw in the final couple minutes of that game against Detroit, you saw Justin Fields, instead of trying to make plays and he has to pass, he has to fucking throw the ball, he has to make reads. Instead, what do? One read, look down, try to make a play with his feet, try to do something with his legs. One read, go to the legs. And it was like fourth down. It was the end of the game. And this guy stands there in the pocket, refuses to pull the trigger, tries to scramble a little bit, almost gets tackled, gets free again for like 3 seconds straight. He's free and he's looking, but he's still trying to make plays with his legs, because that is what happens with Justin Fields. I think that he's exciting. I think he's fun, but that type of football is not sustainable, especially if that's the way that they're just saying, hey, one read and then run. That's going to win you some games. That's not winning fucking football. And that's why it's so frustrating to see what the Bears are doing and continuing to come down to these games where you have to throw the ball when you get in known passing downs and they can't do it. Known passing situations, they can't fucking do it. I don't know how much of that game you watched, but
I caught the highlights, and it's just like, as well. You have a new regime in Chicago. You're trying to find the identity of how you're going to form this offense around Justin Fields. You just traded for Chase Claypool, but then you also traded one of your best linebackers away. So when you score 30 points finally in a game, but your opponent outscores you 31-30, right? That was the final score, 31-30.
Yeah.
To the Lions. So it's like, you're trying to find some identity. You're trying to find out who you are. You want to win games. It's not like they're tanking for draft picks, but you also traded away your best linebacker. So it's tough.
Yeah. And to Julio, who talks about when he hit Mooney on the hands for the win against Washington, Justin Fields made a horrific throw. He had Mooney wide open. Like, we're talking about 5 yards wide open as you get in the NFL. And instead of throwing him a proper NFL ball where he would have just literally just caught it and like fell into the end zone, instead, he threw a ball where Darnell Mooney had to stop and he had to jump up in the air, which allowed the defender to catch up to him and collide with him in midair, which is why he bobbled the ball, which is why he eventually came down that way. That was a Justin Fields mistake. That's what that was. Now, you can criticize Darnell Mooney for not perfectly going up and high pointing that ball perfectly and surviving the contact with the DB. You can criticize him for that. But you have to acknowledge that in the NFL, that is an easy throw that was not executed well. Now, there was a drop on the wide receiver. They're on the 40-yard line or something like that. When he made a 4th down play, hit him in the hands, he should have caught that, no doubt. That totally you could put on the receiver, not Justin Fields. But like, you see these things that happen, like a screen pass on the 20-yard line, and the Bears' own 20-yard line. And Hutchinson just fucking, like, he sniffs it out. He knows it's going to happen. Fucking great play. And Justin Fields, instead of dirtying it, like you would expect, throws a wild fucking pass that gets picked six. A terrible play. Now, luckily, the Detroit Lions play such bad defense, specifically in the middle of the field, that Justin Fields on the next play, in the next possession, takes it like 67 yards to the house, and all of a sudden, the game's basically even again. Luckily that happened, wasn't it? But yeah, he just continues to make bad decision after bad decision, and I think that a lot of people in Chicago are so desperate for a quarterback, and they see a guy that's making plays like Justin Fields, and they're going to make every excuse they possibly can to try to keep him there because they're seeing that, feeling that energy, they're feeling that excitement. And I think it's just going to end up in them investing a lot of time into something that's not really going to play out to fruition. And then we'll be here a couple of years later looking for the next guy. That's how I feel as a Chicago Bears fan. So we'll see. But yeah, you gotta beat the Detroit Lions at Soldier Field if you're the Bears.
A divisional matchup, and then I think a lot of the frustration that Justin Fields shows is probably with himself, to be honest.
Well, he should. Like, the Bears take so many sacks. You would think, this offensive line must have been. No. Justin Fields takes more time to throw the ball than any other quarterback in the NFL. And the Bears' offensive line, before going into this game, was ranked 5th in terms of pass block win percentage. So how often are their offensive linemen winning on their pass blocks? That is elite. That is elite level offensive line play for somebody to sit back in the pocket and fucking pick people apart. But they have 2nd most sacks in the league because Justin Fields can't make a decision back there passing.
Yep.
So it's rough. It's very rough. Audio's fine, but could be louder. Does anybody else have a problem with that? I think, I don't know. I can turn myself up a little bit here. But if anybody else has a problem, let me know.
Usually they're telling me to be more quiet.
Yeah, you usually are like really fucking loud. I have to edit it and post sometimes when I'm doing these. But yeah. But let's get to some of the more exciting games. Let's get to the most exciting game. Vikings. I see Blabs in the chat. What's up, Blabs? Good to see you. Vikings and the Bills. This was a game that was highly dependent how we felt on it based on if Josh Allen was going to play or not. Josh Allen does end up playing, and it looked initially like the Bills were going to kind of not run away with it, but really have this thing in hand. I think they were up, 21-10 at half, and then then the third quarter comes, Vikings, get a score, and then that fourth quarter comes and things start going crazy. Josh Allen has, on a 4th down play, So it was 4th down. If they'd had an incompletion, it would have been a turnover anyway. But does throw a bad pick in the end zone. And he kind of re-aggravates his elbow trying to punch the ball free on the run back. So that was the time we're like, what are you doing, Josh? What are you doing here? And you got to give it to Justin Jefferson, though. Justin Jefferson is a fucking animal. He is a monster. He is a beast. And he had one of the best catches I've ever seen in my fucking life during this game. I'm going to try to pull that up if I can find it.
I think in yesterday's game, we had 2 of the best wide receivers currently in the league playing on the field in the same game with Stephon Diggs and Justin Jefferson, because Stephon Diggs had himself a game as well yesterday as well. Yeah,
like, God, I think they show the replay here. They do here. Yeah, like if Justin Jefferson had made this play, I think we're talking about I think we're talking about Stephon Diggs' catch a lot more, when he just reached up one-handed and snagged that thing in the middle of the field.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about.
But this is the game right here, guys. This is the game. It is in the fourth quarter, less than 2 minutes left. Vikings have 1 timeout. 4th and 18 on their own 25-yard line. And this is complete clutch.
4th and 18. He's given time. He wants Jefferson. Climbs the ladder.
How does he come up with this ball? Like, there is no way at this point that you think this man is going to come down with this ball when the defensive back has effectively 2 hands on it. There's no way.
There's no way.
And somehow manages to keep leverage on it so it doesn't hit the ground in there.
I'll tell you what, that DB helped that leverage for sure with Jefferson. Jefferson steals away that ball from the DB. Like, if you slow it down, that DB's keeping that ball from touching the ground right there. If that was all Jefferson, that ball would have hit the ground. He would have lost control. But he's keeping it up a little bit because he's trying to go for that pick.
Yeah, it's weird because it's like he's obviously trying to rip this ball away.
Yes.
And he just could not get it. Jefferson somehow holds on to this fucking ball.
Yep, he pulls it in while he's on the ground.
Like, what a crazy fucking play. And that was just to keep the game alive. That was just to keep the game alive. And I think Jefferson had around, it was like 10 or 11 receptions for like 190 yards, something like that. And they are somehow able to go down the field, but they didn't even fucking score. They got stuck on like the 1-yard line, and they end up going for it on 4th. Kirk Cousins just ends up short on a quarterback sneak, and because a Justin Jefferson touchdown got called back because he was short. Dalvin Cook dropped a walk-in touchdown. So many things fucking happened. Kirk Cousins tripped over his guard and fell down on one of the plays. You think, oh man, it's over, no problem. Josh Allen fumbles the snap, the center quarterback exchange. The fumble goes down in the end zone, and the Vikings recover. Vikings score a touchdown.
Yep.
So then they're up 3. Josh Allen fucking runs down the field. Damn near
40
scores.
seconds on the clock.
Damn near scored. They had a chance to score a touchdown if one of those passes had been a little bit more on the nose. And but no, they kick a field goal, tied up, going to overtime.
Yep.
Vikings again. Justin Jefferson again comes up big. They march on the field. They're inside the 5. They can't punch it in. They have to kick a field goal. And for some reason, Josh Allen leads them down in field goal range on a 2nd down, makes a horrible throw, a really bad pick to end this game. And that's it. The fucking Bills lose. And now that the Bills are sitting there 6-3, and we've started to see some of these close games, whether it's Miami, whether it's here with Minnesota. And I forget what the last game they lost was. The Jets last week.
Jets.
So now you're seeing these games that are coming down in crunch time where the Bills aren't able to pull it out. And you have to be a little bit worried about that if you're a Buffalo Bills fan.
Well, the Bills were the definitive, like, it's certain that these were going to be the Bills were going to be representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. Well, now they're in 3rd place in the AFC East behind the Dolphins, who are really good, and the New York Jets, who they look good as well. Now the Jets could also end up fumbling it away towards the second half of this season, but the Bills right now in 3rd place in the AFC East. The Bills were supposed to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl, and now they're in 3rd place in their division.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And I think that this is what you wanted to watch, Eric. Eric sends $2 and says watch the second to last play. This was a great breakup right here. I don't know if this was it. Duke Shelley just helped the Minnesota Vikings beat the Buffalo Bills with a critical pass breakup in the next to last play of overtime. This was good. I was watching this live when it happened. You thought that Knox had this thing, and he just rips it out at the end. Is that what you wanted? Is this what you wanted to see? I mean, I almost had it. There you go, Eric. That was the second to last play that you wanted from the Bills. So it was a great play. But yeah, and then that interception, and that was it. That was all she wrote. Pass interference is not a great play. I mean, it was. Let me look at it again.
Yeah, let's watch that again. See if it's PI.
That ain't shit, man. That's not pass interference. You're nuts if you think that's pass interference. You can see his hand come up in the middle, and like his hand, the ball hits his fucking hand. He gets his hand up in the middle of his hands. That's not pass interference.
And also, the DB has his head turned around. He's looking at the ball. He's making a play on the ball. He's not making a play on the receiver.
Yeah, agreed. He's tracking it. He's tracking the ball as it comes in. So that's a clean fucking play. He's not hooking. Like, he's coming up under, so he's not hooking the arm. He's not preventing him from raising the arm. He doesn't have him fucking wrapped up. He doesn't even really touch him with this arm. He's not spinning him. He's not doing anything.
Yeah, that's just a good play. That's a good football play, man.
Mm-hmm. Now, maybe before the ball is in the air, there might have been some contact and some holding, potentially. But no, this is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a good fucking football play right there.
Yep.
That's the same shit that Justin Jefferson on the other side was dealing with all game long. Justin Jefferson, average of 1.5 yards of separation per reception. That's one of like the lowest we've ever seen in a fucking game. He was covered the entire fucking game. Kirk Cousins just kept throwing it to him, and he kept catching him somehow. So.
And that's just how Vikings games have been all season long. You know, the Vikings fans, with them being good, they're like, oh, man, ready for the Vikings to get another win this Sunday. And then it's like, oh, fuck, we're going to lose. But then the second half comes late in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. It's like, oh, shit, we're going to fucking win this thing.
Yeah, I like the Bills. I really like Josh Allen. And I was like super happy with the season they had last year before it came to an end in the playoffs. And I thought, listen, they've been pretty fucking good. They've put up a lot of crazy games, but you can't deny you have to be a little bit worried about their crunch time and what they've been doing this year, especially going forward in the playoffs. But the Vikings, we got to talk about the Vikings. Vikings continue to win very close games. I think nearly all of their games, they've had to come back and make a stand like this, and they've done it consistently, whether it's been at home or on the road. So you got to give it to Kirk Cousins, got to give it to this team, the Minnesota Vikings. Right now, the second best record in the NFC, but man, they're a lot quieter than the team with the number one overall record with the Philadelphia Eagles. Of course, they're undefeated, but
maybe not after that. Maybe not after this win. There might be a little bit more noise about the hype for the Vikings after yesterday's game.
You would think so, and they have all the pieces, man. Especially, I said it. I might have said it on the Wednesday stream. Like, what I thought was one of the biggest acquisitions was TJ Hawkinson, because this is a Minnesota team where Kirk Cousins thrived for a while when he had Kyle Rudolph there, when he first got there, when Kyle Rudolph was still in the tail end of the prime of his career. But he really had been looking for that guy. And to get TJ Hawkinson, a bona fide star at the tight end position for Detroit, to get him in there, the first game, I think he immediately came in, had 9 receptions. I want to see what his numbers were for this game. I didn't see TJ Hawkinson's numbers. I saw he had a couple big moments. 7 receptions, 45 yards, 10 targets. Like, already a target machine for Kirk Cousins. So between him, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, who has stayed healthy this year.
That's the main thing. That's the main thing. Cook staying healthy is the main thing for the Vikings to retain the success going forward.
Yeah, and he had some big moments as well in overtime. He really hammered down the field in overtime. So that was awesome. The Real Gamer channel member says, hello, Sports Wars. What's happening? What's up, man? Dominic Cairns says, hail. Hey, Dominic. Good to see you, buddy. Appreciate you. Let's see. Audio's fine, says Deeds. And then Deeds over on Rumble also says, Vikings have disappointed me by the end of all the seasons. I've given up hoping, so if they can do it, I'll be happy, even if I'm a fair weather fan. There you go. Appreciate that. What's up, Jersey Dolphins? Let me make sure we're good over on Streamlabs. We absolutely are. Let's get to a German game, a game over in Germany, which we watched the end of on the Sports Wars live stream. Tom Brady, the first quarterback to win in 4 countries now, I believe. He's done it in London. England. He's done it in Germany. He's done it in the United States, and I think the other one's probably Mexico.
Mexico City, yeah.
That's what I imagine. I don't remember him playing a game in Mexico City, but that's what I had to imagine when I saw that stat. And they sure are lucky they won, because if they had lost, a lot of people would be looking at that failed play they had, wouldn't they?
Yes, yeah. And it was he brought it up. He brought it up after the game. So Tom Brady in recent years, he wasn't always like this. Tom Brady had been a little vain in the beginning of his career, with obviously he's had some work done on his looks and certain, just certain styles that maybe were forced upon him by his now ex-wife Giselle. But in his most recent years with social media, he's begun to develop somewhat of a sense of humor. So he did address that wonky play where he totally slipped and fell.
Yeah. And,
Lean did it to a little bit.
He did. He even did it on social media here. I wanted to show you guys this. Tom Brady, if I don't slip, that's Randy over the top for 6. You can watch this play here.
He is going to throw it to Brady. Oh, and Brady slips and it's picked up.
Didn't go super well.
No.
That was a really bad throw by Leonard Fournette. It was underthrown like crazy, and Tom Brady tried to slow down and slips and falls. It's picked, and then he trips the guy and gets a tripping penalty. I loved Leonard Fournette's response after this. QB2. QB2 with him throwing the ball. So it's good that they can it's good that they can have a little bit of fun with that.
Yeah.
It's good they can have a little bit of fun with that for sure. But overall, taking down a Seahawks team that had been 6-3 going into this, albeit I don't know if anyone really thought they would be here with Geno Smith. Geno Smith still playing well. They need that run game firing all cylinders for Geno Smith to do everything that he wants to do. But the Buccaneers do continue to play well, and it looks right now like they have that NFC South in hand.
Yeah. I mean, it also helps for Geno Smith that he's got Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf to throw to as well.
Oh, 100%. But now you do see Tampa Bay 5-5 leading the NFC South. Atlanta Falcons at 4-6. So they've got a healthy little lead there. It's not like they're sitting there at a tiebreaker or anything. I do anticipate Tampa Bay will just continue to I don't think they're going to finish at 500. I do think they'll win more games than they lose to come out this season. But there's no doubt they still have some problems. They did run the ball very effectively. So you gotta imagine that they're pretty happy about that.
Yep.
We got to talk about the Green Bay Packers and the Dallas Cowboys. Mike McCarthy's return to Lambeau Field. And, Dallas had it in hand a couple times. Dak threw a couple bad picks in the first half, but they were still able to, go back and really get control of this game. And then Aaron Rodgers was able to bring his team back a couple times, score a last-second touchdown to force overtime, as we've seen him do time after time, just not this season. How many points did he score? 31 points, or 31-28, right? Something like that.
Yeah, there was a point where the Cowboys scored 21 unanswered, and you just thought the game was over, that the Packers were dead. And then, Aaron Rodgers, it was resurrection time. He came back from the dead.
Yeah, at least for one day. Maybe playing Mike McCarthy was what he needed. 14 points in that fourth quarter for the Green Bay Packers. And then, of course, the field goal in overtime. But I did just want to talk about Dak Prescott, because now you're starting to hear more things about Dak Prescott and Cooper Rush. Cooper Rush, who really kept things going for this team. Now, Dak threw 3 touchdowns, 2 picks, 265 yards, threw a lot. Now, Ezekiel Elliott did not play in this game, which I don't think is that much of a loss. I think Ezekiel Elliott at this point in his career, I think you're better off with Tony Pollard on the field because of his rushing and pass-catching ability. But, they were a little bit banged up for sure. What would your opinion on that be? Should they think about going to Cooper Rush?
I mean, as a Giants fan, keep Dak in. But, logically, I mean, the leash has got to be short. You were winning with Cooper Rush, and then obviously Dak wanted to accelerate his recovery time. He wanted to get back on the field because he was feeling the monkey on his back a little bit from Cooper Rush's success. The fact that he started off 5-0, and then he lost one of the games. I forget who they lost to. Oh, they lost to the Eagles. So the Eagles, the undefeated Eagles, handed Cooper Rush his first loss, and that was his first interception that he had this season as well. Was against the Eagles. So yeah, I mean, Dak's got to be feeling the pressure. Not a good loss when you are have such a huge lead in Lambeau, and then you let the Packers come back. I mean, yeah, I think you got to give Dak at least 1 or 2 more games, and if he loses those next 2 games, and then one of the next 2 games is a big Thanksgiving game, a divisional game against the New York Giants, the Giants going into Dallas on Thanksgiving. If they lose that game, I think, man, to keep their playoff hopes alive, you got to think, because Jerry Jones is going to be the one making that final decision.
Well,
So,
I think we need another opinion on this. I think we need one more opinion added in here. Robert Barnes, what do you think about the Dallas Cowboys quarterback situation?
Well, I was thrilled. I had a lot of money on the Packers, so I was glad to see the Packers come back. Glad to see Aaron Rodgers make a comeback, show what he's capable of. Best offensive output they put up all year long.
And I did it with Aaron Rodgers only throwing the ball 20 times.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was impressive. I mean, their running game that had, just like Tampa's run game, had been abysmal. Both Rodgers and Brady both get the run game back going and get some big plays in the passing game. Both come back with some big wins. So I was happy on that side of the aisle. I mean, Dak Prescott's still been a lot better for a lot longer time than Cooper Rush has been. So I would still lean strongly in the Prescott camp, unless he just falls apart at this point. I get, Cooper Rush had a few good games, but you look beneath the hood, it wasn't like he was lighting up the scoreboard or he was putting up crazy stats. They were just winning after nobody thought they would after that first disaster of a game against Tampa. But I don't see – I mean, Green Bay I thought was going to get off the schneid. It's Aaron Rodgers. It's Green Bay at home. I wouldn't write too much into this game. We'll see what happens in terms of Dak Prescott and the Dallas. We'll see what happens going forward. But I still think Dallas is better off with Dak Prescott than Cooper Rush at the helm.
Yeah, I think when you look at Dak, you have a higher ceiling. I don't think there's any doubt about that. You have a higher ceiling for your offensive output. But I also think with Cooper Rush, you're not going to have as many mistakes. And we saw in that first half, in the second quarter, I think Dak threw 2 really bad picks. Dallas could have blown this game wide open if Dak Prescott doesn't have those 2 interceptions to kind of close out the second quarter. This could have been a completely different story. But instead, that wasn't the case. So, of course, you're going to hear grumbling from the Cowboys fans. It's just how it is.
He's still no Russell Wilson. Given the way Wilson is playing. Talking about a guy that should be subbed out, but they don't have a chance. They don't have anybody behind him.
Russell Wilson, once again, the offensive output for this Denver Broncos team that I think a lot of people expected to do good things with the offense that they had in place from the prior year, but with a quarterback who's been proven in this league. I don't think there's anybody that expected the Broncos to be averaging. I don't even know. My guess would be they're averaging 15 points a game, somewhere around there. It can't be that much. Well,
here's a great stat. If they had merely put up 18 points a game, they'd be 8-1 right now.
Wow.
I mean, that tells you how bad and inept and anemic that offense has been. But I mean, I had a bunch of overs that looked great in the first half. I had the team total Chargers over 19. They scored 16 in the first half. I had team similar with the Saints, similar with the Broncos. Broncos put up 10 in the first half. Saints put up 10 in the first half. And then they stopped scoring. Basically, everybody just stopped scoring. Didn't score at all in the second half. It was fascinating. It wasn't fun, but it was fascinating. It was intriguing to witness. So we'll see if some of that performance, that up and down erratic performance, continues, or if they fix it with some of these teams. I mean, maybe it was just Andy Dalton seeing the ghosts of Steelers past from his Bengals days, going up to Pittsburgh and just couldn't maintain it for 2 halves. But hopefully it gets off the schneid.
And I just looked it up. The Denver Broncos have the worst scoring offense in the league. I was giving them too much credit. I said 15. They're averaging 14.6 points a game. So
abysmal. Especially they're wasting a great defense. You know, you have a defense that's really playing lights out. I mean, held their opponent to 18 or less in 8 out of 9 games. I mean, that's pretty darn good. You know, like their defensive performance against Seattle didn't seem like a big deal at the time. It does now. I mean, Seattle didn't win against Tampa, but it wasn't because Geno Smith wasn't good. His stats were quite good. The score was a little misleading. It should have been a higher score given how both teams actually put the ball up. But Tampa had that crazy, let's use Tom Brady as a wide receiver. Who came up with that idea? You know, let's put the 45-year-old out in a wheel route. And then, of course, they throw a pick and they miss a field goal and some other stuff. But it was fun. We'll see if tonight's game. I mean, tonight I think 60% of the money's actually on Washington. That's kind of surprised me. I think it's because
it's a big spread, though, right?
Yeah, 11 points. And this year, big underdogs have been covering it at a crazy rate in the NFL. So that's what I assume that it's a combination of those two things. Though, do you think Snyder still owns this team in a couple of weeks? I mean, given where things are going, I guess Washington, D.C. is talking about forcing him to sell the team.
It's so lame.
It is. It's very bitch made. And the fact that John Gruden is still the one most affected by the NFL trying to force Dan Snyder out is pretty insane.
Right.
And I really hope John Gruden gets a lot of fucking money from the NFL and from the Raiders and from everybody after that. It looks like he is looking to sell. We've heard Dan Snyder say a lot of things in the past that he hasn't necessarily held up on. I'll never rename this team. Well, until I did, a couple times now. So I don't doubt he would sell. And if he sells this team, the valuations I've heard are out of this world, like in terms of money. So like, who's going to go home laughing? Is it going to be all these people that force hateful Dan Snyder out of there? Or is it going to be him when he walks away with like $7 billion?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Beardo.
Yeah, it's super lame. You know, all these people want a virtue signal and they want to point the finger at Dan Snyder that he's this big bully and that they want him to force to sell the team. But he's just going to get richer while doing it. He's just going to make so much money doing it. So, yeah, he's going to be the one laughing and taking that bag of money home after he sells the team for, probably $4 billion to $7 billion. You're going to make the man richer by making him sell the team. It's a load of crap.
Yeah, maybe someone will buy it and demand they rename on the condition they get to rename it Redskins, or maybe have come up with a new name. The Washington Indian head scalpers, or something like that. But yeah, I mean, it's the valuation of some of these teams is just really striking to me. I get it in part. It's all about the TV contracts, but it's not like the NFL hasn't taken some big hiccups, kind of like the NBA has taken big hiccups. It's sustainability. I get the Europe thing's going well. A lot of fans singing "Country Roads" over there in Munich.
That was crazy.
And maybe that's where they think the future is. But it seems to me it's exceeding the reasonable scope of where money is going to go. But especially when they played around with political correctness, they put themselves in harm's way. Some of those fans they still haven't got back. So we'll see if it really just continues to have this exponential growth rate of team valuations, and maybe just the ego of the people involved, the ego comp. It's like art all of a sudden. Everybody's got to have that Picasso that lives on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. It's like the billionaires now, the oligarchs, they got to have themselves a piece of an NFL team for their. It's like English Premier League soccer. It's like it was all the flood of money, of Arab money and Russian money that drove up the valuation of the English Premier League. And they're all competing simply not because of any logic behind the marketability or profitability of the team, but solely for ego purposes. So maybe we'll get, that kind of situation all over again.
Yeah, I just looked it up, and right now the valuation is at $5.6 billion for the Washington Commanders. Usually those sell for more. What we've seen in recent years for the NFL, for the NBA, for everybody, it sells for more than it's actually valued at because they're thinking about long-term and growth and all those things along with it. The Denver Broncos was the most recent team to sell. They sold for $4.6 billion, and I don't think they were worth that at the time, according to everybody. So, yeah, you're talking $6 billion probably easily. So fuck, man, that is crazy, but it does look like that's the road that they definitely want to go.
That's the cost of an Alex Jones verdict.
Basically, they're just going to keep adding on to that.
Yep.
Looks like they're just going to add more like mythical mystery numbers to it that are about as real as anything else. So now we got to talk about the Miami Dolphins. This was not a close game. It wasn't really a competitive game. The Browns are still looking forward to that Deshaun Watson comeback. But the Miami Dolphins once again look really, really solid, handily beating the Cleveland Browns. And the Tua experiment, doubling down on Tua as your quarterback and getting some incredible weapons around him seems to have worked in Miami.
Yep.
Well, you add in that one of the most creative coaching trees in pro football. I mean, I was even starting to think about it and wonder what you guys think. Whether or not, like, you're seeing these great offenses, great quarterbacks suddenly struggle without a running game. So Tampa got back off the schneid in part offensively because the running game was decent, not great, but the best it's been since week 1 in London against Seattle. And then Green Bay got off the schneid because the running game finally got off the schneid. And it's almost like these creative coaches depend on the running game for even good quarterbacks or good passing games with competent receivers. Because Miami, to me, is a combination of an Andy Reid style coach, somebody who you give them the right personnel, they can really make magic with it. Taking a quarterback like Tua, who was just not very good for his first couple of years in the league, often not even playing because of injury issues, and all of a sudden he looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the league, especially on a day where even though Allen came back, the Bills lost at home, no less, to the Minnesota Vikings. I mean, Miami's looking like arguably the best offense in the league, and statistically they're right there with of all people. I get there being right there with the Bills. Right there with Seattle still is hard to say, but and yet that's the reality. But I wonder how much that because these like your LA Rams still awful because they can't run the ball. It's like some of these new creative coaches have made running such a critical component of the passing game that even if your quarterback's named Brady or Rodgers, you now need to run the ball for your offense to work.
I think you need to at least keep people honest. That's really all it is. You know what I mean? And you continue to see these games where offenses struggle, but their quarterbacks are throwing the ball 60 times a game. And you're like, what did we see with the Colts? We talked about it before you got here, Robert. Jeff Saturday comes back. The decision no one was expecting, Matt Ryan back at quarterback, which I do think Matt Ryan gives you a better chance to win there. I don't think there's a doubt about that. But the biggest factor was Jonathan Taylor coming back and then handing the ball to Jonathan Taylor. Like, let him run the ball 20 to 25 times a game and have Matt Ryan throw the ball 25 times. That is a much more appealing offensive recipe, and it worked out really well for the Colts.
And it always helps when you got the Raiders defense on the other side. I mean, they are still putting up some of the worst stats in the NFL, which was a recurrent problem under Gruden, fixed a little bit last season at times. And then this year, it's like, I mean, I guess Derek Carr was crying. I just heard about it. So I was like, NFL quarterback crying at a press conference? I hope there's some compelling reason. Was it mother died, a good friend in the hospital? They're
2-7.
Sheer frustration on his part.
Oh, that's still pitiful, man. There's no crying in football, just like there's no crying in baseball. I mean, that is wrong. Vegas too? You're in Vegas? Oh, man.
It's a little sad for it. Like, obviously the dude cares a lot, which is good. It's good to see your quarterback cares that much and wants his teammates to succeed and stuff. But yeah, like, it's not like this is a playoff loss or like AFC Championship game or. This is just, you've been kind of shitty this year. That's what this is. Maybe Josh McDaniels told the team that he's heading back to New England in the locker room. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, find some casinos, find some strip clubs, just chill out, dude. You can't cry on TV as the quarterback of an NFL team. Not under these circumstances.
Go to the Henry Ruggs driving school.
Exactly.
Go have some fun on the strip.
Go to Top Golf and get wasted.
There you go. Exactly. In Vegas, you can go to those racetracks. They got them all around here. You can rent any car you want.
Yeah, for sure. It's oh man, I like Derek Carr. I don't think it was a great look. I think you can tell the guy means a lot and his teammates mean a lot to him, which is good. But yeah, overall, not a great look. But back to those Miami Dolphins, they did get that run game going. You had Wilson and Mostert, that 1-2 combo that really were good. And, at the end of the day, Tua didn't have to do too much. Just spread that ball around really effectively.
Key is if Tua can stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, they're looking like a legit Super Bowl contender.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Tua all things considered, with the Philadelphia Eagles being undefeated, and as well as Jalen Hurts has been playing with his brand new weapon, A.J. Brown, I think right now, Tua, it's safe to say he's probably leading the MVP race this season. Because it is a quarterback award. So I would say that Tua, and obviously Jalen Hurts, but Tua is probably actually, if the season ended right now, that award probably goes to Tua.
Well, if it ends right now with an undefeated Eagle, you know what I mean? Like, if the Eagles go 14-2, or I guess that doesn't make any sense, 14-3 or 15-2 or something, and, you know, God, they might have to give it to Jalen Hurts, because Josh Allen certainly ain't winning it after the last couple performances, I don't think, or at least not in the driver's seat. Patrick Mahomes, it's not like he's been bad this year at all. But yeah, it's almost like when you're a guy like Patrick Mahomes, when they've seen you have these fucking insane seasons and you don't do that, well, then you almost get taken down a peg. So I believe you, Beard. I think that is the kind of a matchup right now.
Yep.
Given Detroit's ability to put up points suddenly against, come back against the Bears, are also putting up points suddenly. While the Rams can't, it made me wonder whether do quarterbacks just not last in that system. It's like you figure out a way to attack it with a certain quarterback, and they can't have good back to back seasons. I was happy I had money on the Cardinals, but that's still pretty pitiful losing at home to Colt McCoy, no less, with the Cardinals, and it makes me wonder what. And as I see Jared Goff put up some decent stats, and after 3 quarters of misery, following 3 games of misery, but fourth quarter they found something. I wonder whether that's there. And do you think the Bears' offensive revitalization with Justin Fields running a lot, is that sustainable?
No, I don't think it's sustainable.
The Justin Fields experiment? Yeah. Oh, I fucking went on a rant about that earlier. No, it's not. Because every time you put this man in a position where he actually has to throw the ball, he can't. Like, he physically, won't. That's the problem. We talked about that earlier, how Justin Fields has more time to throw the ball than any other quarterback in the league right now. More opportunities to pass from the pocket than any other quarterback. That offensive line is 5th in terms of win or pass block win percentage. So they are elite. They are an elite teams in terms of pass blocking, yet they give up the 2nd most sacks in the league because Justin Fields is constantly running around because he wants to make a play with his legs. And to his credit and to the Bears' credit, I think they've realized that this guy can't throw in the pocket. So let's just let him get out there, say, hey, man, one read. If you don't see it, try to make a play. And that is a key to winning a couple games. When all of a sudden these defenses have to figure out, all right, am I going to put a spy on him? We can't over pursue on the edges. We can't do a traditional pass rush. Like, we have to change the way we operate with this guy. And until people really catch on to that, you're going to see him continue to put up points, I guess. 150 yards rushing, 150 yards passing. That's what you can expect from Justin Fields in the future, I guess.
I mean, that's how Cam Newton won his MVP. But the difference between Cam Newton and Justin Fields is Cam Newton is 6'6", 270 pounds. Justin Fields is 6 foot, 200 pounds soaking wet. So, it's going to be tough for Justin Fields to maintain that kind of play style to have a long career. It's not sustainable.
And Cam was a better pocket passer than Justin Fields was. Even his first season in the NFL. When he's throwing strikes to Steve Smith and those guys out there, he was always better. That's not to say he was a pure pocket passer, but he was always better. He spun the ball really well, and he could operate within the pocket. And Fields has not shown the capability to do that. You're talking if you throw out some of these big, massive runs he's broken off, that makes it feel a little more like RG3. That's kind of what we saw from RG3 in his first season. Look at his numbers, and it kind of looks like Tebow. That's what it looks like. A guy who isn't going to throw for a ton of touchdowns, will throw a couple picks here and there, but not overwhelming picks to Tim Tebow had a 2-to-1 fucking touchdown interception ratio, but he threw the ball 20 times a game, So I don't know. I don't like it as a Bears fan. I love that people are excited, but I also hate that people are excited about it because it means to me that they're going to see the excitement. Justin Fields they're going to double and triple down on Justin Fields, which I don't think is winning football. But that's just part of the life of being a Bears fan, I guess. The Greg for $5. I warned the world about Chip Kelly and how much he blows. Bounce back versus USC. Make UCLA great again. Fire Chip Kelly. We may as well.
I had money on Arizona. I had they're almost 8-1, and they won straight up. Well, just had money on Washington. They won straight up 4-1. That was a nice little double finish to the evening. And as a Tennessee fan, given the TCU won, I was thrilled to see less competition. No, don't talk about Oregon. They got 2 losses. UCLA, they got 2 losses. Now it's only needing TCU to lose to Baylor this week or lose somewhere else, but I'm hoping it's Baylor. Get them out of there. Since Texas decided to take a nap on a Saturday. What is it with Steve Sarkisian in some of these big games? Got to like nap on big game day. I mean, there's a couple of times we show up, and there's a couple of times you're like, what? And this is the guy who lost to Kansas last year. It's like that meme. That guy that goes, what? I mean, that's basically the Steve Sarkisian experience at Texas, USC, Washington. Yeah. And then I think Tennessee's still in the hunt for that last playoff spot, but they really need TCU to go down. But I mean, I would love to see, one part of me as a fan would love to see USC, a Pac-12 team, as a college football fan in the playoff. As a Tennessee fan, screw them. I want to be there instead.
Yeah, because right now, when you look at it, you've got a couple one-loss Pac-12 teams with USC, Oregon, and is it Utah? Does Utah only have 1 loss?
2. Because they lost to Florida, remember?
So that's out of conference loss. Got it. So USC's only loss is a 1-point loss at Utah.
Yeah.
Other than that, if they beat, I know the Greg's not going to be happy about that, but if they do beat UCLA and then they finish the season against Notre Dame, a Notre Dame team which is so fucking overrated, how do you start the season overrated, lose so many fucking terrible games, have like 1 big victory, and all of a sudden you're overrated as fuck again? That's the story of Notre Dame.
And maybe that's this coach. This coach is, he's going to show up for the big games. They showed up. They played Ohio State tight and tough. Then they beat Clemson at home. They barely get by Navy last week. And watch, they've lost to Stanford, almost lost to Cal, lost to Marshall at home. Terrible home losses. And watch them. They'll probably upset USC at the end of the year.
Probably. I was at a game in 2009. 2009. It was before I joined the Navy, but I think I was signed up to go to boot camp in 2010 because there was a big backup for it. So I think it was a 2009 game. And I watched the Navy midshipmen come in there and beat Charlie Weiss. I think it was Jimmy Clausen at the time.
Had to have been.
Golden Tate was on that Notre Dame team. And I watched is Robbie something? Ricky Dobbs, the running quarterback for the midshipmen, beat the shit out of Notre Dame, and I fucking loved it. Because as someone who grew up about 30 minutes from Notre Dame campus, I've always hated those motherfuckers. So that was one of the most glorious times of my college football watching career, was that moment. A lot of sad Notre Dame fans that day.
Yeah.
But we do have a big game next week in the Big Ten. For all intents and purposes, it is the big game title game. It's the Big Ten title on the line. Ohio State and Michigan. Beardo, do you have any thoughts about what we've seen? Is Michigan going to be able to do it again, or is it going to be more of the same for Ohio State?
I'm a Harbaugh fan. I like Harbaugh, and it's been tough to see him just have very heartbreaking games to Ohio State. And I believe last year was the first time in his Michigan tenure that he actually beat Ohio State. So I'd like to see Harbaugh pull out another win on Ohio State. I don't think that the Big Ten is very competitive besides these 2 schools. So I'm looking forward to this game, and I'll be rooting for Michigan.
I'm still a skeptic of Michigan in terms of talent level, but we'll find out. This game will show it, because if he can go to the horseshoe and pull an upset, then he deserves to be in the playoff no matter what happens with the Big Ten title game. Well, that's probably going to be a joke, because somehow Iowa is now on track to be back there. That no-offense Iowa is going to be representing the Big Ten West. That will be an awful, awful, awful Big Ten title game.
Right now, isn't Purdue in the driver's seat?
I think someone told me if Iowa wins out, Iowa goes because Iowa beat Purdue and has the advantage. That's what I heard.
So right now, when I look at standings, Purdue's at top. So they're all 4-3, right? They're all 4-3 in the conference. Purdue, Illinois, Iowa, but Purdue's on top right now.
I think the way the tiebreakers work is Iowa will be on top if they win out.
Potentially, I guess that could be the case. Yeah.
Is this week the last week in the Big Ten for conference play?
I think. I mean, usually that Big Ten or that Michigan Ohio State game is the last week. But let me look on to next week and see what we got here. See, next week isn't. Never mind. Maybe I'm wrong. So next week is not. Next week is Michigan, Illinois. So we got 2 more weeks till the big game.
Yes. Okay.
All right. That makes more sense. I was getting a little bit ahead of myself.
No problem.
A little bit ahead of myself.
I thought it's usually right around Thanksgiving is when Ohio State Michigan plays.
And that will be the last regular season game for those teams. Well, yes, that makes a lot more sense.
And Michigan could get tripped. You talk about a classic look-ahead game. And you play Illinois, tough, resilient defense, needing to get off the schneid with some disappointing games recently. That could be a real trap game with Michigan looking ahead the week after under the Buckeyes.
Or what about my Purdue Boilermakers? What about my Purdue Boilermakers? Purdue has played Ohio State pretty well over the years. I will just say that. Purdue has given Ohio State some hard times, and they've even beat them a couple times. They have upset the Buckeyes a couple times in the past decade when they were not nearly as competitive as, like, there shouldn't have been games, but Purdue sticks with them.
I had money on the Boilermakers last week against Illinois. That was a nice little win to go in there and bounce back from that Iowa game. This will be a really good test of that Ohio State defense. How improved is it under this new defensive coordinator? Because Purdue's offense is a tricky offense to defend. Some teams good at it, some teams not. This game will really reveal where they're at.
Yeah, it's going to be a good one coming down to the wire because Georgia is a lock. One of these Big Ten teams likely to be a lock. TCU, unless they fucking lose Baylor, going to be a lock. So Tennessee, USC, it's going to get – those are really the only two things I can think of right now. Yeah. Is Tennessee and USC. Who is it going to be? But I hope we do get a good fucking – I would love to get a 4 – I know you don't want this, Robert. I would love a 4-conference college football playoff. I think it'd be great for the football. I think it'd be great for ratings. The best teams wouldn't be in it, but I think Alabama would beat all those teams on a neutral site other than Georgia right now anyway. So you don't have the best teams. It's not really what the college football playoff is.
No. But it will soon. Once they have 12 teams, then you're always assured that the most talented teams will be there pretty much. So that will be a nice transition to that 12-team. I know in The Athletic they wrote kind of a critical piece of it about how it will damage the quality of the regular season for college football, this 12-team playoff. I don't see it that way. It doesn't work. I mean, at the lower levels, everybody still is excited for the regular season games. You still have home field to play for, which is obviously going to matter in the playoffs. It'll be great to see real home field playoffs in college football. It's kind of crazy. We've never had it. So I'm looking forward to it.
I think it does inherently devalue a little bit of the magic of the college football season, but we already have that with the playoff itself. We already do have that. Now, it used to be, hey, if you fucking lost a game like the way that maybe Bama did early in the season, you don't have a chance. You're done. But the college football playoffs already done that a little bit, but it's still very exciting. It will devalue it a touch, but at the end of the day, I think it's worth it. I think it's worth it to have a good, robust playoff. I did an essay when I was in 8th grade or something that was all about a 16-team college football playoff. I wanted to get rid of the BCS. This is before the college football playoff system. And my English teacher knew nothing about football, fucking hated the fact that I did that, but I did a lot of research on it, and it was fun. It's good to see that finally the NCAA is catching up with me from 2002 English class. All right. That's a very, very positive thing.
Absolutely.
And I think I guess we could talk about those SEC games that did happen this week. Big SEC games didn't really have a big impact on what's going to happen going forward, but LSU did basically make sure that they are going to be in that SEC title game with a close win over Arkansas. And then Nick Saban was not about to lose 2 games in a row as he beats Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss.
Yeah, when it comes to Alabama, Lane Kiffin is still Lane Kiffin. Just can't seem to get over that hump. A first and almost goal right outside it, and just couldn't get that final score. No special play to show he was a special coach. Couldn't happen to a better person in my view. LSU, hey, give credit to Brian Kelly. He's got LSU in the SEC title game in his very first season. Not a lot of people thought that was going to happen. I mean, people were talking about whether they would even have a winning record in Baton Rouge when he showed up there. It shows you what a disciplined system can do. That guy took, Jalen Daniels, who had been up and down at Arizona State, and he made him into a solid enough quarterback and disciplined that defense that had been wildly erratic for 2 years in a row. And all of a sudden, they're a solid, reliable defense, eked out a win against the Hogs on the road. And, while everybody's right now regretting giving Jimbo Fisher a $100 million buyout as he loses again, this time to Auburn, so much for the greatest recruiting class in history he landed last year. And then the Show Me State got to see what Show Me looked like in Knoxville as Tennessee put up almost 800 yards of offense against that vaunted defense of the Mizzou, showing that they clearly want to get back into that hunt for that final playoff spot. And credit to Saban bouncing back like he needed to bounce back. Wasn't the most inspiring game plan I've ever seen from Alabama, but it was solid enough. But I think both those coordinators, Bill O'Brien and the defensive coordinator, better be shopping those resumes because I don't think they'll be at Alabama next year.
Yeah, it might be two losses. It might be a bloodbath at Alabama, the way those Bama fans think. But yes, it was a very good week in the NFL. College football had some good ones, especially over in the Pac-12. They're going to make a big difference coming down the road, but mostly people are just really gearing up to see how things will shake out down the road in this college football playoff. Any big predictions for tonight, Beardo? What do you think about the Monday Night Football game that's about to kick off, if it hasn't already kicked off?
As a Giants fan, I hope that the Washington football team pulls one out tonight. I don't know. I like Heineke. Heineke has played well in big games, so I believe this game is in Philadelphia. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays in Philly against this undefeated team. But Heineke's got a little bit of that Fitz magic going on with him. I know he played with Ryan Fitzpatrick for a half a season before Ryan Fitzpatrick broke his hip, but Heineke has a knack to play really good on the highest stage. He did it a few years ago against Tampa in the playoffs. He has a knack for this kind of thing. So I'm rooting for Heineke tonight, but I think they keep it close to the Eagles. I don't know who's going to win. Eagles probably pull it out, but I'm rooting for Heineke. Big Heineke fan tonight.
I like Washington. I mean, I got money on them at plus 11 and got them to at least get to 20 offensive points. I think their team total is like 18, 19, something like that. Don't know what it went off at. So I'm hoping Heineke does have a good night there in Philly.
Yep.
And I do hope they at least keep it close. I do want to see the Eagles go down. I'm always a little nervous when the public's with me. That's not usually a great sign. Fade the public has been a true and trained betting tactic out here in Vegas for quite some time, but I'm hoping they're wrong on this one. And they have been recently in the NFL. Some big public underdogs have actually been covering of late. So we'll see if the Commanders can put something up. And hopefully the Snyder curse. I think Washington is 7-23 on Monday night since that idiot bought the team. Hopefully it doesn't curse the spread at least tonight in Philly.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what Taylor Heineke's record is as an underdog against the spread. I tend to think it'd be good. It probably isn't. It's just kind of one of those guys who gets a reputation of hanging in there in games and hanging around and
Right.
stuff like that. But we shall see. I don't know how you can go against the Eagles winning the game at least. I do hope that these Washington Commanders will at least try to make it close. But thank you guys for joining us here for Monday Evening Quarterback. We'll be back on Wednesday for Against the Spread, where you can hear all the best tips from sportspicks.locals.com for the NFL and college football games. Beardo, do you have anything going on that you want to promote?
Just that Red Dead Redemption stream tonight. Again, just more just cowboy role play over on that Red Dead Redemption with Alaska Jeff. So that'll be later tonight after the Monday Night Football game. But other than that, that's about it.
There you go.
So
And
Fear the Beardo on Twitch.
Perfect. And of course, for Robert, as always, sportspicks.locals.com. What's the value in that, Robert? Why do people want to pick that instead of all these other ones that they could possibly choose?
It's the most affordable, most accessible, most profitable political handicapping combination out there. More than doubled your money last year. People up over 50% this year. If you want to make profit, if you want to just get interesting opinions, interesting advice, interesting insight, there's a range of other handicappers that are there. You know, for $10 a month, you get all the picks. You can join for free if you want and just see what the other pickers recommend and promote. We have wide open live chats. I put up late picks all the time. Those tend to be profitable. One of them this past Saturday, if you were in there, was Arizona plus 755 to win straight up. And so a lot of folks were having a good Saturday night after that.
Absolutely. So check that out on Locals, and we'll see you right back here next week, same time. Thanks, everybody. We will talk to you later.